Now, I have no doubt that all of you here know what the 8values test is. I've taken it for the past 2 years in a row, always in April, so I figured I'm going to keep the tradition going and see how much my views have changed over the past 2 years. And I have a feeling it's going to be a lot. It was a slight jump from 2 years ago to last year, but let's get right into this one because I think it's going to be pretty interesting. So, yes, all the good stuff. It's about 70 questions exactly. So, question number one: oppression by corporations is more of a concern than oppression by governments. Again, with the way big tech has been, especially over the past year, you remember 2018, all the hearings they had in Congress, the whole Alex Jones thing. I'm going to start to lean towards agree because, I'll actually give a good example. I heard somebody say, I can't remember off the top of my head who, they said something along the lines that, look, in Europe you have these hate speech laws, you have these things that you're not allowed to talk about by law, but you'll get a slap on the wrist, usually a fine for that. In America, when they don't want you to discuss any of the forbidden topics, you get banned from every platform. You get your payment processors shut down. They shut down any alternatives you try to start, such as Gab. And I'm gonna have to slightly agree on that one. Now, number two is it is necessary for the government to intervene in the economy to protect consumers. I'm gonna have to say slightly agree. Now, when I was more of a free market fundamentalist, as I have termed it, I would have said no. The free market is supreme. We must, respect the market, whatever. But it's an unrealistic view. So, as much as I may disagree with it on principle, even though I still have that bit of a libertarian in me, it's not completely dead. Point being, but I'd say from a pragmatic standpoint, I have to slightly agree with that one. The freer the market, the freer the people. I would have said strongly agree, but now I say absolutely not. Look what the free market has gotten us. I mean, people are miserable nowadays. You can go on like we've turned the market into a religion. So I'm gonna go outright and strongly disagree on that one. Now, it is better to maintain a balanced budget than ensure the welfare of all citizens. Again, when I had more of the detached view, when I had more of the economics is priority number one type of view, I would have said, oh yes, we must ensure a balanced budget. The economy must reign supreme. But you don't foster a healthy society that way. Look, the national debt is at $21 trillion already. We might as well implement policies that are going to help people. Now, I'm not saying like we need any like the Bernie Sanders style stuff. I think he's still completely off base. But I look at what they're doing in Hungary. Look at what they're doing in Italy. They have, instead of just social programs, they have pro-family social programs, which I'd be in favor of, even at the expense of a balanced budget. So I'm going to have to strongly disagree with that one. Publicly funded research is more beneficial to the people than leaving it to the market. You know, both are going to have their advantages and disadvantages, so I'm kind of neutral on this one because if some private firm does it, it's going to come out with its biases. If some government does it, it's going to come out with its biases, so I'm going to have to, it doesn't really make a difference. International trade is beneficial. That is how China has pillaged our economy for the past 30 years. Again, I would have said slightly agree, but no. We have to think about it in terms of, okay, not only the American worker, but American sovereignty. Again, we're in a competition with the great powers of the world. Like, love it or hate it, that's how it is. And you can't be interdependent on trade with rival countries such as China, especially with the lopsided deals we have now. So I'm going to strongly disagree with that one. From each according to his ability to each according to his needs. Now, I've gone back and forth on this one. I still have to say I slightly disagree with this one. It would be better if most social programs were abolished in favor of private charity. I'm actually inclined to agree with this one because you have these social programs, you look at the way the government functions. Again, I still have my skepticism of government despite my views taking, I would say, a radical shift over the past year and a half or so. But I think at the end of the day, you need to leave these things to communities and the church, and I'm gonna have to at least slightly agree on that one. Taxes should be increased on the rich to provide for the poor. Now, the thing about increasing taxes, this is something that Western leftists love to talk about. They love to talk about we need to rein in the rich. The rich need to pay their fair share. We need to control the corporations by busting up monopolies, trust busting. No, that's too hard. By challenging the actual financial system. No, 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 that's impossible. Oh, you know what we're going to do? We're going to raise taxes on people who won't pay them anyway. So I'm inclined to disagree. I don't think raising taxes is the solution to everything. Now, you can make the argument for the progressive taxation brackets, which I'm sympathetic to, but again, just raising taxes on the rich isn't going to, help the poor necessarily. So I'm going to slightly disagree on that one. Inheritance is a legitimate form of wealth. I would say so. I'm actually against the inheritance tax. Yeah, it goes back to more of my viewing society as a family unit rather than a group of individuals. Again, you should be allowed to pass on to your family, and one of the one of the things government should not be involved in, one of the many things government should not be involved in, but I'm going to strongly agree. This is one of the few areas I actually agree with a conservative ink on. Public utilities like road and electricity should be publicly owned. On a local level, yes, like if the county or even the state government owns it, yeah, I could see it. Or like if you live in a smaller country like a Denmark, if your national government owns it, not a big deal. Something I'm not really too passionate about the other, either way, but it's worked the way it is now. We haven't had too much of a problem. I know the infrastructure is poor to say the least, but it's not awful. So I'm gonna slightly agree on that one. Excessive government intervention is a threat to the economy. Again, I'm gonna slightly agree, considering the fact that government intervention never targets the right things. Oh, we just have to tax these corporations more. Some little throwaway thing. So I'm gonna slightly agree on that one. Those with a greater ability to pay, those with a greater ability to pay should receive better health care. Now, I've become more sympathetic to the idea of a universal healthcare, of a healthcare system that is provided by the government. But I still think, again, there should be a market for the people who choose to have it. And if you can afford a better doctor, you shouldn't be beholden to a single payer system. So I'm going to actually strongly agree on that one. Quality education is a right of all people. Now, I wouldn't say it's a right necessarily, but I would say for pragmatic reasons, we need an educated population. Now, I think the education system needs a complete overhaul. I think it needs to be more vocational than as it is compared to now. But also, quality education is a right of all people. I can understand, like, the younger levels. You don't know how a 5, 6, 7 year old kid is going to perform as he or she grows up. But you get to a certain point, you get to the point where they're getting into secondary and tertiary education. You have these people who either don't care about school or just aren't good at it. Do they really deserve the same quality of education as someone who, for example, is at the top of their class, or who it maybe isn't that intelligent, maybe isn't that naturally gifted, but is a hard worker? Do they really deserve the same, quality education as some slacker? So I'm gonna go actually with a neutral on that one, because I think I'm interpreting the question differently than what they wanted me to, but again, I think I gotta go with the neutral on that one. The means of production should belong to the workers who use them. I wouldn't go that far. I can understand the argument that people should have a say in what they do for their job and like where they work, but again, you also have to consider the people. Not to make the argument for big business, but more so small business. The people actually go out on a limb, take the risk to start the business. So I'm gonna slightly disagree on that one, but I can sympathize with it. The UN should be abolished. Now, for those of you who've been watching my show over the past year, you should know I strongly agree with that. It's a worthless body, it's accomplished nothing, and it's a joke, honestly. Military action by our nation is often necessary to protect it. Looking at the past 70 years, past 100 years since World War One, that's a strong disagree. I mean, we haven't fought a war in our interest since the Spanish-American War, and even that's debatable. I support regional unions such as the European Union. Now, yes, I support regional unions. I think it's better to work together, but the European Union, it's a bad example. Because of the way they word this, I'm going to say disagree, but for example, in Europe in particular, I've been predicting that once the European Union collapses, which pretty much is, you're going to see several regional blocks. You're going to see like the Visegrad group with Hungary and Poland, and maybe like a French-Italian union, seeing as populism growing in France, very heavy in Italy. Probably English union with some of the Scandinavian states, but because they threw in the European Union, I gotta go with a slight disagree, but I can't go the full disagree because regional unions in general, not necessarily opposed to. It is important to maintain our national sovereignty. Absolutely. A united world government would be beneficial to mankind. Absolutely not. It's more important to retain peaceful relations than further our strength. Now, in an era before nuclear weapons, in the pre 1945, the pre atomic era, I would have said yes. But we have let that genie out of the bottle. We have these weapons capable of doomsday in the hands of about a dozen nations. So if you have to sacrifice some of your strength, some of your ability to project on the world stage in order to de-escalate tensions, I say it's worth it. So I'm going to slightly agree. Wars do not need to be justified to other countries. I I'm unsure about that one because look, you go around attacking countries halfway across the world such as we do. It looks bad and it erodes trust. It erodes your diplomatic relations. But at the same time, if you want to take an action as a sovereign nation, you shouldn't constrain yourself to the opinion of others. So I'm going to have to go again with an unsure on that one. Military spending is a waste of money. In its current form, yes, the way we spend it and how much we spend, I'm going to have to slightly agree on that one. International aid is a waste of money. Absolutely agree on that one. My nation is great. In theory, yes, the way it currently is, it could be doing better. That's all I can say. But yeah, I got to go with that. That slightly agree. Research should be conducted on an international scale. Now, I was actually talking about this on Wednesday or Thursday by the time it was broadcasted about actually the F-35 project and how much of absolute chaos that's been working with Turkey. And I don't think you can really tie yourself to another nation. I think it creates too much interdependence. So I'm going to have to go with a slight disagree on that one. I think there's some cases it can work, but mostly it's a good idea to avoid it, in my opinion. Government should be accountable to the international community. Again, this goes back to what I was saying before. When you wage wars halfway across the world, it's going to make you look like unhinged, as the U.S. has been for the past, especially 30 years or so. And I got to go with another unsure on that one. Even when protesting a government, authoritarian government, violence is not acceptable. Look, that's an unrealistic view. I'm not advocating violence or anything, but if, for example, you get some of these situations, the government opens fire on you, you're not supposed to just stand there with signs. I mean, Gandhi's strategy only worked because he was a subject to the British. Had Gandhi been for example, a French colony, they likely would have shot him. So, look, I can agree with the sentiment, but in reality, no. My religious values should be spread as much as possible. Yes. Our nation's values should be spread as much as possible. That hasn't worked for the past 70 years, so strongly disagree. It's very important to maintain law and order. Yes. The general populace makes poor decisions. Strongly agree. Victimless crimes such as drug use should not be crimes at all. Now, when it comes to the drug issue, I've become much more socially conservative on this. People do not belong in a cage for this. But they shouldn't be free to do it. We shouldn't tolerate it as a society. I feel we should help them. The people who peddle the drugs, the dealers, the drug lords, they all belong in cells. They all belong behind bars. But the simple user, they deserve the help. So I don't agree with the war on drugs in its current form. If we're going to be fighting a war on drugs, we should be fighting a war on drugs and go after the drug dealers. So I'm going to have to slightly disagree on this one. The sacrifice of some civil liberties is necessary to protect us from acts of terrorism. That has not worked. The Patriot Act, the TSA, they have not prevented a single terrorist attack in any meaningful sense, so I'm going to have to strongly disagree on that one. Something I'm still very libertarian on is the whole keeping government surveillance away. Government surveillance is necessary in the modern world. See my previous answer for my description on that. The very existence of the state is a threat to our liberty. It's not. Look, if you implement an anarchist or an anarcho-capitalist society, or even an anarcho-communist society, like what some of the Antifa people want, what you're going to get is you're going to get a bunch of warlords, people looking for people stronger than them to protect them, and you're eventually going to end up creating a state anyway. So a state is inevitable. And look, government has a tendency to grow. It's almost cancerous in that way. But I'm going to slightly disagree on that one. It's not necessarily a threat to. It's as much as a threat to your liberty as you allow it to be. Regardless of political opinions, it is important to side with your country. Look, I'm going to have to go with a no on that, especially, again, if America were to launch a war in Iran tomorrow, if they were to Trump were to go full Zionist and say, look, the Iranian regime must be brought to heel, and we're fighting for our greatest ally to take out the evil terrorist Iranians, and they tried to implement a draft, absolutely not. I would resist. I would be a conscientious objector. I would, outright dodge the draft in that case. In a hypothetical scenario, of course, I'm not advocating for anyone to do anything illegal. But look, when my country betrays my values, when it betrays the values that I believe it was founded on, I'm not going to stand with what claims to be my country, the hollow husk of the government claiming the identity of my country, if that makes any sense. No authority should be left unquestioned. I strongly agree with that. I look, submitting to authority is important. It's important to realize that yeah, there are people above you, but it's okay to ask questions of them and question their motives. I think it's healthy. A hierarchical state is best. Yes. It is important the government follows the majority opinion, even if it's wrong. I'm gonna have to go with a no on that one because you get some of these polls out here. Like if you believe some of these CNN polls, look how many people believe in amnesty and looser immigration laws. Again, just because the majority of people support it doesn't mean we should be going along with it. By that logic, Hillary Clinton should be president right now. Not that it would be much better or worse with Trump at this point. I blackpill too much. I shouldn't say that, but strongly disagree. The stronger the leadership, the better. I'm unsure on that one. It depends on the situation. Democracy is more than a decision-making process. Yes, it's pretty much a religion at this point, but I think if you agree, they mean you agree in a strong way. So unfortunately, I have to press the neutral again. I hate pressing it so many times. I feel it skews the results unfairly. Environmental regulations are essential. Absolutely. A better world will come from automation, science, technology. In general, yes, but it will come with hefty drawbacks. I mean, that's what, Andrew Yang, love him or hate him, his entire campaign is about. Look, automation, it's going to put a lot of people out of work. Oh, look, we may be pushing the bounds of science. We may be going beyond what we're meant to as humans, whether you believe that from a religious perspective or just a purely, like, nature perspective, that we should be restricted as a species. So, in general, yes, but that doesn't mean it doesn't come without its drawbacks, so I'm going to slightly agree. Children should be educated in religious or traditional values, absolutely. Traditions are of no value on their own, strongly disagree. Religion should play a role in government. Now, I'm not a theocrat, but I do think if there were more godly people in government as compared to the godless neoliberals and neoconservatives governing this nation, not only this nation but the entire West today, we would probably be in a better state. So I'm going to slightly agree on that one. Churches should be taxed in the same way other institutions are taxed. I'm purely going to say strongly disagree, just to piss off the fedoras. That's where I'm at. That's where I'm at right now. Climate change is currently one of the greatest threats to our way of life. Again, I was saying environmental regulations are essential, but the whole climate change cult, it's the dumbest way to go about it. It's the way the neoliberals can feel good and rile up their base about an issue that their base cares about, but they're deflecting it to something that they're focusing the energy in the wrong direction. So I'm going to say slightly disagree because you see all these predictions. Of course, Al Gore, he's the butt of all the jokes. I could make a million jokes about that, but yeah, I'm gonna have to go with a slightly disagree on that one. It's important that we work as a united world to combat climate change. As I said previously, society was better many years ago than it is now. Again, most people will point to the nifty 50s and how great things were there, but again, the 50s sowed the seeds for the 60s. But yeah, it was marginally better many years ago, but not perfect, so I'm going to go with a slightly agree on that one. It is important that we maintain the traditions of our past. I mean, look, it's kind of forsaking everything that the people before you did and said and lived their lives for if you just throw them out the window, so strongly agree. It is important that we think long term beyond our lifespan. Absolutely. Reason is more important than maintaining our culture. Now, this is the most empty. Again, I know I've been overusing this neoliberal take there is, but yeah, I'm going to have to disagree on that one. Drug use should be legalized or decriminalized. I'm in favor of decriminalizing, as I was explaining before, so, slightly agree. Same sex marriage should be legal. Nope. No cultures are superior to others. Nope. Sex outside marriage is immoral. Yep. If we accept migrants at all, it is important that they assimilate to our culture. Absolutely. Abortion should be prohibited in most or all cases. Look, we can have the moral debate all day, but, just purely from a pragmatic standpoint, it's civilizational suicide if you pretty much have abortion as an option. My personal opinion, at least. Gun ownership should be prohibited to those without a valid reason. Absolutely not. I support universal single payer healthcare. I can get behind it. I don't think it's feasible, at least in American society, but I can understand the rationale for it. Prostitution should be illegal. Absolutely. Maintaining family values is essential. Absolutely. To chase progress at all costs is dangerous. I just went over this. Genetic modification is a force for good, even on humans. Yeah, that seems like one of those things with a lot of unintended consequences. Look, we're gonna get a race of mutant people and cause like some bio war. So maybe I'm exaggerating a bit, but I'm gonna slightly disagree on that one. We should open our borders to immigration. Ha ha ha. No. Governments should be as concerned about foreign citizens as they are those within their borders. Strongly disagree. All people, regardless of factors such as culture or sexuality, should be treated equally. People aren't equal. Look, before God and before the eyes of the law, we should be treated equally. Yeah, yeah, just one of those things. But in terms of our social interactions, no. It is important that we further my group's goals above all others. Yeah, I'm going to slightly agree on that one because it's reasonable to a certain point, and we're going to see where I stand right now. Ooh, I'm pretty balanced in the market. I'm patriotic. I'm a statist. Libertarians beware. I'm very traditional. And I am a right wing populist, according to this, so. Those are my results. Of course, I will link the test down below. I will be posting this, of course, later. You'll see this on the channel. It's like 2 a.m. right now because, it's a Friday night, technically a Saturday morning. I didn't have much else to do. I couldn't sleep. So, that's why I'm a bit, stuttery and mush mouth. I'm a little bit tired, but I'll see you guys next time, and goodbye.